The Nexary diplomatic chamber gleamed with an unsettling perfection, its crystalline walls refracting light in ways that made Lieutenant Ryoko Tanaka's eyes water. She maintained her composure, though every instinct screamed that something was wrong. The United Earth Diplomatic Corps had sent her as security detail for what was supposed to be a routine first contact protocol, but the energy signatures she detected on her way in matched nothing in the briefing materials. "Your species shows remarkable adaptability, Lieutenant," Ambassador ZYK commented, his translucent appendages weaving complex patterns in the air. "Most oxygen breathers find our atmospheric mix challenging." The towering arthropodal alien tilted his head, compound eyes reflecting Ryoko's image back at her thousands of times. "We're full of surprises," Ryoko replied diplomatically, trying not to focus on how the chamber's subtle vibrations matched weapon reactor frequencies she'd studied in threat assessment training. Her augmented neural implants, standard issue for special tactics operators, were picking up encrypted transmissions that shouldn't exist in a peaceful diplomatic outpost. The rest of the human delegation had been escorted to their quarters, leaving Ryoko alone with ZYK for what he'd called a security consultation. "Standard procedure," he'd said. The ambassador's translator mesh hummed as he continued, "Tell me, Lieutenant, how does your kind cope with isolation?" The question sent ice through her veins. Before she could respond, the chamber's crystalline walls shifted from transparent to opaque. Emergency protocols kicked in as her neural implants detected a massive surge of energy building throughout the station. The diplomatic mission had been a trap. Ryoko moved before conscious thought, her augmented reflexes carrying her across the chamber as ZYK appendages transformed into razor-sharp blades. She ducked under his first strike, her body responding to years of combat training and genetic enhancement. "I was really hoping we could do this the easy way," she muttered, drawing her ceremonial knife, the only weapon she'd been allowed to keep. "Your species' reputation for violence precedes you," ZYK chittered, his movements blindingly fast. "But you are alone, Lieutenant. One human against an entire outpost. Even your impressive capabilities have limits." Ryoko grinned, despite the situation. "Want to test that theory?" She activated her neural combat suite, time seemingly slowing as her augments kicked into overdrive. The knife in her hand was a tungsten diamond composite, far more than the ceremonial weapon it appeared to be. "Because there's something you should know about humans, Ambassador." She moved like liquid lightning, the knife finding gaps in ZYK's natural armor as she spoke. "We're never really alone. Every human carries the strength of our entire species with them." The ambassador's counterattacks were precise, deadly, but Ryoko's enhanced reflexes kept her just milliseconds ahead. "We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day, survived disasters that should have ended us, and came out stronger." Alarms began blaring throughout the station as Ryoko's attack triggered security protocols. She could hear the heavy tread of guard units approaching. ZYK's mandibles curved in what might have been a smile. "Impressive, but futile. You've simply triggered your own doom faster." Ryoko's neural implants finished their analysis of the station's security networks. "No, Ambassador. I've just confirmed what I suspected." She launched herself into a backward flip as the doors burst open, revealing heavily armed Nexary troops. "You're not diplomats at all. This whole station is a forward operating base, isn't it?" She landed in a crouch, knife ready, her mind already calculating odds and plotting strategies. The neural combat suite was feeding her information about weapon types, armor weaknesses, and structural vulnerabilities. "And now I know exactly what I have to do." ZYK's translator mesh crackled as he barked orders to his troops. "Take her alive. We need to know how she detected our deception." But Ryoko was already moving, her augmented muscles launching her into the midst of the Nexary troops. Their energy weapons tracked her too slowly as she became a blur of motion, her ceremonial knife finding weak points in their combat suits. "Here's another fun fact about humans," she called out, voice steady despite her exertion. "We don't just survive against impossible odds, we thrive on them. The first wave of troops fell, their advanced armor useless against Ryoko's combination of enhanced speed and precise strikes. She somersaulted through the air, snatching up one of their fallen weapons. Now, who wants to help me understand why you're really here? As more troops poured into the chamber, Ryoko's neural implants calculated a survival probability of less than 20%. She smiled. Those were better odds than humanity had faced during half the catastrophes in their history. The real question wasn't whether she would survive, it was how much damage she could do before they finally brought her down. And she intended to do a lot of damage indeed. Ryoko crouched in the maintenance shaft, her neural implants processing the encrypted data she'd stolen during her fighting retreat. The Nexary station's architecture was a maze of crystalline corridors and bioorganic chambers, but that complexity had become her advantage. For 6 hours, she'd been playing a deadly game of hide-and-seek with the station's security forces. "Come on, decrypt faster," she whispered, watching the progress bar in her augmented vision. The stolen Nexary weapon felt awkward in her hands, their technology was built for beings with very different anatomies. But she'd adapted, just like humans always did. The data finally resolved into comprehensible form, and Ryoko's blood ran cold. Star charts, invasion plans, weapons schematics, the Nexary weren't just gathering intelligence on Earth. They were preparing for a full-scale assault, using the diplomatic mission as cover to map humanity's defenses. A sudden vibration in the shaft made her freeze. Her implants detected movement 2 levels below, a search party using bioscanners. They were getting better at tracking her. She needed to move, but the information scrolling across her vision demanded attention. The invasion fleet was massive, unlike anything humanity had faced before. "Lieutenant Tanaka," a familiar voice echoed through the station's communication system. "Your persistence is remarkable, but ultimately futile. Surrender now, and we'll ensure your death is quick." Ryoko allowed herself a grim smile as she recognized ZY-Ketal's voice. The ambassador's translator mesh couldn't quite hide the frustration in his tone. She'd caused them significant damage in her running battles through the station, destroying key systems and gathering intelligence. "You know," she called back, knowing the station's sensors would pick up her voice, "for someone who spent months studying humans, you really don't understand us at all." She began moving through the shaft, her augmented muscles allowing her to climb silently. "We don't surrender just because the odds are bad." The search party below changed direction, following her voice. But Ryoko was already 3 junctions away, moving with practiced efficiency. Her neural implants had mapped most of the station's layout by now, creating a 3-dimensional model in her mind. "Your species' defiance borders on madness," ZY-Ketal responded. "We've analyzed your capabilities. You cannot hope to prevent what's coming." Ryoko reached a junction and paused, checking her stolen weapon's charge. "That's your second mistake," she said, starting to understand something crucial about the Nexary. "You think everything can be predicted, analyzed, reduced to numbers." She spotted another patrol through a transparent section of wall, their biomechanical armor gleaming under the station's lights. They were protecting something, a data core, according to her implant's analysis. But humans? She lined up her shot carefully. "We specialize in doing the impossible." The stolen weapon discharged, its energy blast shattering the crystalline wall. Alarms blared as atmosphere vented explosively, catching the patrol off guard. Ryoko was already moving, her combat suit automatically sealing against the vacuum. She launched herself through the breach, using the escaping air as propulsion. In fact, she continued, knowing ZY-Ketal was still listening, doing the impossible is practically our species' hobby. She landed among the struggling Nexary troops, her knife finding weak points in their armor while they fought against the sudden decompression. "Like right now? I just calculated that destroying this data core would cripple your coordination capabilities." "You wouldn't dare," ZY-Ketal's voice crackled with genuine alarm. "The quantum feedback would dash." Ryoko slammed her stolen weapon into the data core's crystal matrix, setting it to overload. Would create a cascading failure in all connected systems. She was already running, her neural implants plotting an escape route. Yeah, I figured that out about 2 seconds ago. Adapting on the fly, it's another human specialty. The explosion behind her sent shockwaves through the station's crystalline structure. Emergency barriers slammed down, but Ryoko's augmented reflexes kept her ahead of them. She could hear chaos erupting throughout the station as systems failed and command protocols collapsed. In her tactical display, she watched the station's defense grid start to fail. That would buy Earth some time, but it wasn't enough. The invasion fleet was still out there, gathering at coordinates her stolen data had revealed. She needed to find a way to warn Earth without leading the Nexary right to it. As she ran, Ryoko noticed something odd in the data she'd stolen. There were signs of internal conflict among the Nexary, hints of a faction that opposed the invasion. If she could find them, make contact. A massive tremor shook the station. Her sabotage was having bigger effects than expected. Lieutenant Tanaka, ZYKTAL's voice was barely controlled fury now. You have no idea what forces you're interfering with. The Nexary Dominion has conquered species far more advanced than humanity. Ryoko reached a secure terminal and began hacking it, her neural implants interfacing with the alien technology. Maybe, she agreed, starting to piece together a plan. But I bet none of them had something Earth specializes in. And what would that be? The question was laden with contempt. Professional chaos, Ryoko answered, initiating a series of commands that would throw the station into even more confusion. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go make some new friends. I think there are some Nexary who'd be very interested in what I've discovered about your invasion plans. As another explosion rocked the station, Ryoko smiled. She was one human against an army, trapped on an alien station, facing impossible odds. In other words, it was just another day at the office for a member of humanity's Special Tactics Division. The real fun was just beginning. The rebel Nexary's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with what Ryoko's neural implants interpreted as anxiety. You understand, Vexnor said, mandibles clicking softly, that by helping you, we commit our entire faction to potential extinction. Ryoko stood in a hidden chamber deep within the station's maintenance level, surrounded by a dozen Nexary dissidents. Their crystalline armor was darker than the military standard, modified to avoid detection. She kept her stolen weapon lowered but ready, trust went only so far. And if you don't help me, she countered, your entire species risks becoming exactly what you fear. She projected the invasion plans she'd stolen onto the chamber's wall. Look at these protocols. This isn't just about conquering Earth, it's about harvesting our genetic adaptability. Your military leadership wants to use human DNA to create biological weapons. The rebel Nexary exchanged complex light patterns that her implants couldn't fully decode. Vexnor stepped forward, his translator mesh humming. We've suspected something like this. The Dominion's military caste has become increasingly aggressive in recent cycles. But this? He gestured at the projected plans. This is madness. Madness with a method, Ryoko noted, highlighting specific sections of data. They've studied us for years. They know humans can survive conditions that would kill most species. They want to weaponize that. A smaller Nexary, introduced as their science specialist KRX, moved closer to examine the data. The genetic compatibility calculations are fascinating, she admitted, her lights flickering rapidly. Your species' ability to adapt, we've never seen anything like it. That's because you evolved in a stable system, Ryoko explained, remembering her xenobiology training. Earth? Our entire history is one disaster after another. We didn't just survive them, we learned from each one. An explosion somewhere above made the chamber's crystals resonate. The station was still in chaos from Ryoko's sabotage, but she knew it wouldn't last. ZYKTAL's forces would restore control eventually. "We have a plan," Vexnor announced, his light stabilizing into a determined pattern. "But you won't like it, Lieutenant Tanaka." Ryoko's neural implants detected increased energy signatures from the rebels' armor. "Not weapons charging, something else. Try me. Humans specialize in plans nobody likes." "The station's quantum core," Karax explained, bringing up a holographic blueprint. "It's not just a power source, it's connected to the Dominion's entire command network. If we could introduce a specific type of feedback, we could corrupt their invasion data," Ryoko finished, her implants already calculating possibilities. "Scramble their intelligence about Earth's location." She studied the blueprint, noting the layers of security. "But reaching the core would be suicide. Even with my capabilities, the defensive systems would." She trailed off as she noticed the rebels' light patterns synchronizing. Vexnor's translator mesh crackled. "Not suicide. Transformation." Understanding dawned. "The defensive systems are keyed to specific biological signatures," Ryoko said slowly. "They'd detect me instantly. But if I had Nexury biology?" "A temporary modification," Karax assured her, though her lights flickered with uncertainty. "Using our biotechnology, we can alter your cellular structure just enough to fool the sensors." "But the process?" She hesitated. "Will be excruciating," Vexnor finished. "And if it fails, the molecular reconstruction would be unpleasant." Ryoko laughed, surprising the rebels. "You really don't understand humans yet," she said, checking her weapon's charge out of habit. "Pain we can handle. Uncertainty. That's practically our natural habitat. The real question is, what happens after we reach the core?" The rebels' light patterns became complex, almost chaotic. Karax approached with a crystalline device. "The transformation process will take approximately 30 minutes. During that time, I can explain the technical details of Dash." Another explosion rocked the station, closer this time. Ryoko's implants detected multiple search parties converging on their location. "We don't have 30 minutes, she announced. "They're getting closer to finding this hideout. So let's do this the human way." "The human way?" Vexnor's translator couldn't quite convey his confusion. Ryoko grinned, already removing her combat suit to prepare for the transformation. "Yeah. We make up the plan as we go, probably break half a dozen laws of physics, and somehow pull off a miracle." She looked at the crystalline device that would rewrite her biology. "Just one condition, you have to tell me exactly what kind of havoc this will let me wreak on their systems." As KRX began the transformation process, Ryoko's tactical display showed enemy forces moving ever closer. The pain started immediately, just as they'd warned, but she embraced it. Every nerve felt like it was being rewritten, because it was. "You humans," Vexnor observed, watching her endure the transformation without complaint, "you don't just resist pain, you seem to find strength in it." Through gritted teeth, Ryoko managed a smile. "That's because, pain means you're still fighting. And humans? We never." She gasped as another wave of transformation hit her. "We never stop fighting." As her DNA began to merge with Nexury biotechnology, Ryoko focused on the mission ahead. She was about to attempt something no human had ever done, and probably violate several laws of nature in the process. In other words, it was turning into a pretty typical day for humanity's first xenobiological hybrid operative. The quantum core chamber pulsed with energy that Ryoko could now see in spectrums her human eyes never could. Her partially Nexury biology felt both foreign and thrilling, like gaining new senses she'd never known she was missing. Her neural implants struggled to integrate the flood of new information. "Security forces approaching," she subvocalized through her modified translator mesh. Her voice resonated strangely through her altered vocal structures. "Multiple vectors. They cannot detect you," Karax's voice whispered through their encrypted channel. The rebel scientist and her team were monitoring from their hidden chamber. But the genetic masking will only last another 20 minutes. After that, I'm either done or I'm dead, Ryoko finished. She moved through the crystalline corridors with an alien grace, her hybrid body responding to the station's bioorganic architecture. Standard human operating conditions. The quantum core itself was beautiful in ways she now had sensors to appreciate, a lattice of crystalline matrices containing enough computational power to coordinate an interstellar empire. Or in this case, enough power to corrupt that empire's invasion plans. Alert, the station's systems announced. Unauthorized access detected in Sector 7. All units converge. Ryoko smiled with mandibles she was still getting used to. They're not as stupid as we hoped. They're searching everywhere except here because they know no non-Nexary could reach this chamber. An logical assumption, Vexnor commented through the channel. No species has ever successfully merged with our biology before. Yeah, well, Ryoko reached the core's main interface, her hybrid nervous system connecting directly with its crystalline surface. Humans have a bad habit of doing what's supposed to be impossible. Her neural implants, enhanced by Nexary biotechnology, began interfacing with the quantum core. The sensation was overwhelming, like trying to drink from a stellar fire hose. But her human consciousness, trained for adaptive problem-solving, began finding patterns in the chaos. Fascinating, Karax breathed, monitoring Ryoko's vital signs. Your human neural architecture is processing quantum data in ways our scientists thought impossible. You're not just interfacing with the core, you're rewriting it, Ryoko finished. Through her connection, she could feel the vast network of the Nexary Dominion, and its vulnerabilities. They built this whole system on the assumption that their logic was perfect. But humans? She began introducing subtle corruptions into the invasion coordinates. We thrive on imperfection. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Warning, the station's AI announced. Quantum core integrity compromised. Unknown protocol detected. They're on to us, Vexnor warned unnecessarily. ZYKTAL's forces are moving to your position. Ryoko barely heard him. She was deep in the quantum data now, her hybrid consciousness surfing waves of information. Did you know, she said conversationally, even as she corrupted critical military databases, that human minds are actually really good at chaos? We see patterns in randomness. We find order in disorder. Multiple security teams approaching the core, KRX reported urgently. 15 seconds to contact. Which means, Ryoko continued, initiating her final sequence, we're perfectly suited for introducing just the right kind of chaos into an overly ordered system. The quantum core flared with energy as her commands took effect. Throughout the station, systems began failing in cascading patterns. But not random patterns, chaos with a purpose, disorder with design. What did you do? Vexnor demanded as the station's lights flickered. Ryoko disconnected from the core just as the chamber doors burst open, revealing ZYKTAL himself leading a squad of elite guards. Her hybrid body was already moving, faster than either pure human or Nexary could match. I introduced humanity's greatest weapon into their perfect system, she answered, launching herself into the confused guards. Creativity. The next few moments were a blur of combat. Her transformed body moved with impossible grace, while her human combat training took full advantage of her new capabilities. She was neither human nor Nexary, but something new, and that made her unpredictable. The invasion coordinates, ZYKTAL raged, recognizing what she'd done. You've corrupted everything. Not corrupted, Ryoko corrected, disabling another guard with movements that defied their combat protocols. Improved. Your invasion plans now have a slight probability variance. Say, 1 or 2 light years in every calculation. Understanding dawned in ZYKTAL's compound eyes. You've made our entire strategic database unreliable. Worse than that, Ryoko felt her hybrid body beginning to revert, the transformation was wearing off. I've introduced human-style problem-solving into your quantum core. Good luck predicting anything now. She launched herself toward the chamber's upper levels as her transformation began to fail. The station's systems, infected with her hybrid code, were throwing the entire Nexary military command into chaos. Not by destroying their data, but by making it just unreliable enough to be useless. Fall back, she heard ZYK order. The core is compromised. Shut down all quantum links before dash. But it was too late. The viral code she'd introduced was already spreading through their network, carrying with it something the Nexary had never encountered before, human intuition encoded in quantum algorithms. As Ryoko felt her body painfully returning to human form, she allowed herself a grim smile. The Nexary would eventually restore their systems, but their perfect military machine would never be quite the same. They had wanted to use human adaptability as a weapon. Instead, she'd given them a dose of human chaos they'd never forget. Pain lanced through Ryoko's body as the last traces of Nexary biology purged themselves from her system. She huddled in a maintenance shaft, her neural implants struggling to recalibrate after the transformation. Through the crystalline walls, she could hear the station descending into chaos. Status report, she managed through gritted teeth. Your code is remarkable, Karax responded, her voice filled with what might have been awe. It's not just corrupting their invasion plans, it's forcing their entire command structure to embrace uncertainty. They can't trust any of their strategic calculations anymore. Ryoko allowed herself a pained smile. Turns out introducing human unpredictability into a quantum system has interesting effects. She checked her tactical display, noting multiple search parties moving in confused patterns. How are your people doing? The rebellion is spreading, Vexnor reported. Other factions are joining us. Your actions have proven what we've long suspected, the military caste's drive for perfect order is our species' weakness, not our strength. Another spasm racked Ryoko's body. The transformation had left her with insights into Nexary biology that her neural implants were still processing. They're going to figure out how to purge the code eventually, she warned. Perhaps, Karax agreed. But they can never purge what you've shown us. The value of imperfection. Suddenly, the station's communications crackled to life. Lieutenant Tanaka. ZYK voice was different now, strained, almost uncertain. You've done something unprecedented. Our quantum core, it's developing patterns we can't predict. That's what happens when you mix human creativity with quantum computing, Ryoko responded, slowly standing despite her body's protests. We call it thinking outside the box, though in this case, it's more like thinking outside your entire dimensional framework. Our invasion plans are useless, ZYK continued. But more than that, you've introduced a virus we can't eliminate because it operates on principles we don't understand. It's evolving. Ryoko began moving through the station, noting how the crystal structures seemed to pulse differently now. Her brief time as a hybrid had left her with an understanding of Nexary technology that no pure human had ever had. That's because it's not just a virus, she explained. It's human problem-solving encoded in quantum algorithms. It doesn't just corrupt data, it finds new ways to solve problems. She reached a viewport and saw Nexary ships in the distance, their formations broken and confused. Without reliable strategic data, their perfect military precision had shattered. The rebellion is taking control of key systems, Vexnor reported. Many in the military caste are standing down, recognizing the fundamental flaw in their philosophy of perfect order. You've weaponized chaos, ZYK accused. No, Ryoko corrected, watching more ships break formation. I've weaponized humanity's greatest strength, our ability to adapt, to find new solutions, to embrace uncertainty as an opportunity rather than a flaw. She smiled. Your invasion failed not because we're stronger or more advanced, but because you never understood what makes humans different. The station shuddered as power systems realigned themselves. Ryoko's neural implants detected a fundamental shift in the quantum core's operations. It was learning, growing, becoming something neither human nor Nexary but a unique hybrid of both. The military caste is standing down, Vex Nor announced triumphantly. The reformers are taking control. Lieutenant Tanaka, your actions have sparked a revolution not just in our technology, but in our entire society. Ryoko finally allowed herself to relax slightly, though her combat training kept her alert. So, what happens now? Now. Karax's voice held a note of excitement. Now we begin something unprecedented, a true collaboration between our species. Your hybrid existence, brief as it was, has shown us possibilities we never imagined. The invasion fleet is dispersing, Vex Nor reported. And Earth's location remains secure. You've done it, Lieutenant. But Ryoko was thinking ahead, her mind racing with possibilities. The brief merger of human and Nexary biology had given her insights that could revolutionize both species' understanding of the universe. No, she said thoughtfully. We've just begun. She stood at the viewport, watching the Nexary ships realign themselves into new, more organic patterns. Behind her, the station's quantum core hummed with evolving possibilities, human creativity encoded in its crystalline matrices. Ahead lay something entirely new, not the perfect order the Nexary had sought, nor the pure chaos they had feared, but a dynamic balance between the two. You know, she mused, humans have a saying, the best victories are the ones where everyone wins. And as she watched the dawn of a new era in human-Nexary relations, Ryoko smiled. She had come here to prevent a war and had instead sparked a revolution, in technology, in biology, and in understanding. It was, she decided, a very human outcome. After all, why settle for defeating an enemy when you could transform them into allies instead?